Hi, welcome to Tuesdays with Tammy. Today's guest is someone very special. Let me tell you a little bit about her. She's an actress, producer, and Baltimore native. Noree Victoria has been active in the creative arts since childhood, earning Bachelor of Arts degrees in creative writing, biology, and African studies. Noree taught ninth grade in biology in Baltimore City immediately upon graduating. She worked as a food scientist and subsequently completed her Master of Science degree in Applied Information Technology. The lure of the dramatic arts proved too enchanting for her to ignore, though. Noree took flight to pursue a creative passion for acting full-time, studying at the New York Conservatory for the Dramatic Arts and the British American Drama Academy at Oxford University in England. Noree went on to win the Best Actress Award at AMTC and to appear regularly in various Emmy-winning television shows, including FX's American Crime Story, The People vs. O.J. Simpson, and Queen Sugar. She has also produced various short and feature-length film projects. She continues to pursue her career and training in Los Angeles, California, currently serving on the board of directors as vice chair for New Filmmakers Los Angeles, and in spare time finds fulfillment in advocating for social justice, yoga, surfing, and outdoor adventures with a tight-knit circle of friends, pre-COVID, of course. Hello, Noree. Welcome. How are you today?
I'm well. Thanks for having me.
Good. It's so good to have you. Well, today's topic, we're going to just jump right in, by the
Yeah.
way. And today's topic, I wanted to talk about mental health and how it has potentially affected you, helped you, healed you. How have you used it to heal yourself? And, just in growing up, I mean, were there any childhood traumas? Tell me your story.
There's a lot of backstory in the bio. Growing up in Baltimore was full of stories, and just jumping right into it, I feel mental health is core to how we move in the world, especially in the creative arts, not discounting any other field, but really taking a hold and unearthing your story before you begin to tell someone else's, or even taking the time to unearth your story while you are unearthing other people's, and not ignore yours, not ignore your mental health or your trauma, and it's a theme even in art, in creative arts and writing. Your core wound, we always try to get to a character's core wound, right? And we do that in out in the world, even in relationships, when we're talking to other people in our interactions, but we tend to ignore our own. And it's easy to do that, which is fascinating to me because we're living in this body all the time right now, that we can just ignore that. So growing up in Baltimore, one of the things that, and you and I talked about this previously, was dealing with violence, and how that affects children and their development and how they move in the world. And I haven't shared this openly, but my family, we were victims of a home invasion where I saw both of my parents shot in front of me. Everyone did survive. And that was when I was a child, barely forming memories, you might say, according to some psychologists. But we as a people, Black people, as a family, we tend to, as we call it in everywhere, not just in Baltimore, we tend to just thug it out,
Right.
We're so used to trauma, and we're so used to dealing with what the world gives us, and having to go out forward facing anyway, that we don't take the time to really address our core wounds. And I could look back and say I had a perfectly imaginative, great experiences playing with my cousins, so many memories that were beautiful and experiences that were beautiful. And then there will be something that triggers your core wound, where you have to really face the fact that, you know what, maybe I haven't dealt with this all the way. Maybe I haven't unearthed my true story. And unearthing your story, I think you have to be careful. It's not synonymous with transparency. People think telling everyone everything is that's the therapy. It's not. Right. It's so much deeper than that. It's really drawing very detailed and complex dotted lines to things that may have happened and things that affect you and how you deal with situations today. Now, I feel that in a lot of ways, overcoming trauma on your own, it builds a certain fortitude in a way. It doesn't mean it's necessarily the healthiest way to go, but I do believe that when you grow up with certain, as we call them, codes, that you are able to become almost a mental health chameleon and disguise whatever's going on and deal with the situation at present. That doesn't mean you don't go home at the end of the day and fall apart. Again, that's the part that's not so, maybe not so healthy about it, but it creates a certain fortitude where you do go forth. So I think there's two sides to it, but I'm very concerned in the work that I do and in the activism that we don't ignore the mental health or PTSD of children, no matter what arena we're working in, especially in the world today, especially with social media where everyone's exposed to 1,000,000,001 opinions of others, and your life can be involuntarily on full display. And I'm speaking again from the perspective of children. Sometimes parents just put everything out there without even thinking about how this is going to affect a child. It's a very different world we're navigating, but very important.
Oh, yes.
Very core to who we are, addressing mental health and core wounds and core joy too.
To you, I thank you. I appreciate all of that you shared with us. And I'm sure that I'm absolutely positive of how traumatic that had to have been for you as a child to go through those experiences. Do you feel that going through those experiences, because as a child you've not yet developed enough mentally and emotionally to understand how, compartmentalizing certain things and processing them, bite by bite can actually help you through it. So initially, do you feel as if there was something that this was something that you kind of blocked out for a while, or do you feel like there were times in your life where you were wearing a mask in order to protect yourself from feeling those fears and those feelings that happened when you were growing up? And then, of course, as you've gotten older and learned to, accept and understand it more, to realize that you had to unearth it?
I absolutely believe that it's something that I blocked out for a long period of time. It's interesting because it came full circle in a very unexpected way. Just a few years ago, the man responsible, his conviction was overturned due to a technicality that's been happening in Maryland that we won't hear about on the news because of so many other things dominating the news cycle at the moment. But there was a case that went to the Supreme Court that challenged jury instructions, and they were supposed to be changed. Maryland neglected to do that. So as of now, since 2015, they've let over 200 murderers go. Now it's interesting from this, from my personal POV, because I am very adamantly against the prison pipeline. So this having, I think, a natural social warrior personality, and I don't know where that came from. I have to tell you now, my mother even says, I don't know where that came from. It just innately, and that could have been connected to some childhood experiences, is in me to want to protect other people. It's been very interesting going through this process of wanting complete and full justice for the people who raised me, and having compassion and empathy for all the people that are victims of this structure that we live in, and what makes people the human being to make certain decisions that they do, whether it's crimes perpetrated against someone else or limiting to themselves. What I will say is interesting about my experiences is that I grew up with very little fear. And I think that that was an unexpected side effect of, and I had to make this statement in court, and facing the man told him, you left an unexpected hero behind, and that was my dad. And so seeing, without going into all of the details, some things that a child would probably never see their parents have to face, despite having our space, ourselves violated, I grew up feeling extremely protected by this unit that did what they had to do. Mm-hmm. And so what's interesting to me is coming from a place of empathy when I see other people's traumatic journeys, but also coming from a place where it's okay to be afraid, but we must, in order to go on, in order to have hope, make the decision to be brave after you feel that fear. Mm-hmm. It's a response that, would I feel be better infused in our upbringing if we took care of the mental health of children, if we gave them the option to feel brave, if we gave them the option to have space in their experiences to speak about them and emote about them, and having very open lines of communication with my parents, but not traditional therapy. Mm-hmm. Having a family that rallies around, really, this is who we are, and this is, and no one will take that away from us, no matter what. It led to some very interesting experiences. And I just had a conversation with someone about the difference between growing up in a fear-based household and one that isn't. But it was something that I blocked out. Mm-hmm. And I will have to say that it was very stressful dealing with the aftermath in the court system, but I had no fear. It's very interesting. Mm-hmm. I had no fear facing the man. I had no fear telling our story to him. I had no fear because he had never seen the child grown up. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I want to ask you, especially since we're talking about, you're not really wanting to support the prison system as it stands. However, you do feel like justice needs to be had for what people have been, forced to suffer through. What are your thoughts on people using mental health as their reason for acting out and committing crimes? Heinous crimes like the one that was committed against your family. I don't know what this person might have said, but what are your thoughts in general on people saying, oh, but they had, they were insane, or they have some mental health illnesses? What are your thoughts?
Here's the thing. I feel that a lot of communities, in the way we're structured today, a lot of people are suffering from PTSD in different ways. Mm-hmm. Now, and because I am a Black woman, and the Black community is of utmost importance to me, and I make no apologies for that. What I do know about us as a community, especially growing up in Baltimore, is that we have had over 400 plus years of systematic oppression in this country. Mm-hmm. We have had approximately 100 years of being free, mm-hmm. but only about 67 years of the elimination of Jim Crow, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so if you continually expose, and during those time being targeted, being accused of crimes you didn't commit, being mm-hmm. punished for things, being brutalized by the justice system, families torn apart, and people can get as tired of this narrative as they want to, but it's a real thing that exists that we have not properly dealt with.
Mhm.
And there's a reason why the housing projects are full of brown and black people. There's a reason why the prisons are full of brown and black people. It's double faceted. Not only are we being targeted, but severe oppression leads to depression and anxiety, which leads to us committing crimes. Now, specifically in Baltimore, and we have these in pockets all over the country. When you take opportunities away from a community, in Baltimore, it was specifically the certain industries where they built housing projects around, and then the industries were taken away. There was a company called Bethlehem Steel. I believe my grandfather worked for that company before he retired and passed. But then you take the economic opportunities away, and you have people that are looking out for themselves in whichever way they have to look out for themselves.
They have to feed their families.
They have to feed their families, and there are insidious ways that people go about doing that. And that does not excuse, because there are some of us who dealt with that, and we are perfectly capable of deciding not to harm other people.
Right.
I think mental health going unaddressed, specifically in Black and brown children, has led to oppression and anxiety and PTSD and trauma on a larger scale in Black and brown children who have not had a 400-year head start to get themselves together in this economic structure. And so you have children fighting, you have children hungry, you have children growing up without empathy for what's going on with someone sitting next to them because they are so hurt. When I was teaching in the school system, I can't tell you how much anxiety and just trauma and drama that these kids were going through. And I literally graduated on a Friday. I was teaching on a Tuesday, ninth graders, and I'd gone to college at 16, so I wasn't much older than them. And immediately I knew I had to become an ally for kids who came to school without breakfast, and by 3 o'clock they're delirious and hungry. If someone says something, of course you're going to smack them across the face if you're feeling, I can't deal with this anymore. And you get put in a penal system, which leads to the prison system, and there's the pipeline right there. As far as the individual that committed these crimes against my family, I have only had the opportunity to address this person in court. I just know that he is a product of a neighborhood that I both love and that I both, and I also have a great deal of compassion and frustration with. And its effect is ongoing. It doesn't end with putting someone in the system and locking them up and keeping them there. So until we address the core wounds, coming right back to that of children, their needs, their physical needs, their emotional needs, we are going to continue to have people that act out in that manner because of mental health and physical disadvantages, marginalization. I did not choose, I would like to say, this career path chose me to tell the stories of other people. I never thought I would be in front of the camera. I thought I would be more writing and still in the scientific realm, because I'm insanely curious about everything, from just everything. I can't help myself from learning, and what better vehicle or vessel to do so than to get the stories of other people continuously and constantly. And I am always pulling from my experiences and the character that I feel has been built up from literal concrete, if you will.
Right. Wow. Well, I really agree with you on a lot of that, you know, we've had 400 years of oppression and barely 100 years of being, of being able to take advantage or attempt to take advantage of opportunities. Because even now, where some people would say, oh, you had the same opportunities as somebody else, we still are starting from behind the line. And it makes it so much more of a struggle for us. And You know what I've noticed, in this is going to shift just a little bit. I've noticed that amongst our people, there is a lot more, and I understand why too. There's a lot more of there's a lot of more of us trying to compete with one another rather than support, encourage, and uplift one another. You know, as a community, as a race. On one hand, we want to say buy black, and on the other hand, we're like, the customer service sucks, or the prices are too high. And then, some of those establishments, the people that they hire in those establishments do have like a lot of attitude or bad customer service. And so you want to support them. There's just like this push and pull. And it's just so saddening to me that we cannot find a happy medium so that we can lift each other up together. I mean, you look at the other, some of the other races, like say, for example, Asians, you see these Asian communities and they are supporting one another and building up their communities. I want to see more of us like really gathering together and not, nickel and diming each other, for our prices. Like, for example, somebody, would go out and buy name brand stuff, say Prada or Gucci or whatever, and not blink an eye. Red bottoms. I don't even know who those are made by because I'm not into like labels like that. But they'll go out and buy those without blinking an eye. And then when it comes to an African American establishment trying to sell something of high quality, it's not like it's not even worth it. They want to ask you or try to ask you, how much can I get this for? And it's like the price is right there. Or to talk them down. It's almost like we don't respect the hard work, the research, the effort that has been put into it. And so that makes you feel a certain way. What are your thoughts on that?
I number one, we have a very unique experience as underrepresented, because I don't like the word minority because it has minor in it and it puts us underneath by definition. So there are groups that have the advantage to come here and not be close to their trauma. You know the phrase, sometimes you have to leave home to be respected at home, and that is very true in so many different ways. And we here have not had an opportunity to disconnect and reset from the mentalities that have been instilled in us here. Now, that is no excuse. I think it starts, with each person.
Yes.
I feel the highest form of self-respect is where you spend your money, and to spend your money where you are respected. And I think that in light of certain things that are becoming more out in the open as far as the treatment of Black people on this soil, we're starting to see, hey, we are bleeding billions of dollars into certain communities that really have little respect for our journey, but have no problem exploiting emulating it and exploiting it. So I feel that education is the very first, it's the front line of economic savvy as far as respecting the businesses of people that look like you and built up like you. I mean, we had Tulsa, we had Rosewood, we had our thriving communities that were always squashed, our movements that moved in Philadelphia that were always squashed. And so there became, I feel like it became both a fear of generating our own and supporting our own. There's
because it might be snatched away or burned down.
Yeah, and so we've never seen the stability that other communities have been able to build without being connected. Again, it goes back to this trauma. So I feel that educating people on things that they may not want to know. Do you know the history of the person that founded some of your favorite brands? Do you know that they supported stores where you were not allowed into? Do you know that this community will not let you eat in their restaurants if you go to their country because you're Black, but they will come here and feed the kids on your corner. Do you know where certain beauty products come from and what communities are exploited to get them? And I think having, as a consumer, and this, it has bothered me. I walked through, there was a film festival here in California, and I walked through the marketplace and I saw people haggling with these craftsmen and the vendors, black vendors and African vendors. And my thought was, pay full price, pay more if you can, tip more if you can. And it's just, because if someone was standing outside and called you a name and then said, but I want you to buy this candy from me, would you then buy it? It's like there's a cognitive dissonance. There's a disconnect in education and realizing really who is for you.
And now, go ahead.
Yeah, and we are bleeding money. We are bleeding resources into an image that has also addressing the name brand thing. I've never been able to latch onto it. I've never been able to understand it because to me, I never understood how buying something adds value to you as a person.
Right.
I've never been able to understand how if I take this shirt and interchange it with something that has a G on it, how that changes me as a person. My vibe, my conversation, my energy, if I'm an authentic human being, will stay the same. And it's a battle. It's an uphill battle now with social media. I mean, everywhere you look, someone is.
Oh yeah. Well, I have something to share with you about that. Well, first I want to back up a little bit. When you were talking about seeing vendors get haggled by potential customers, I also think that those customers probably have children or other relatives with them. So it's like a learned behavior too. It's almost like it becomes expected that this is what you can do when you go to a market, an open market or something, and they're not realizing that they're just continuing to encourage that cycle. So that's one thing. But I believe along with education, there has to be a higher level of self-love, for the individual. Because if you love yourself, then I'm hoping that leads to you loving your people and loving your race, loving your culture, loving your community. And when you love yourself, you respect yourself, right? So the same will go to, towards the community, the race, and the culture. And we can't expect somebody else to love us more than we love ourselves. So if we can love ourselves and demand respect and equal treatment, then it will come to us. We have to have a little bit of patience. We have to entertain and support those who also love themselves, because that's also what's lacking. It's like we don't have enough self-love, enough self-respect to not just go frivolously throwing thousands of dollars away to somebody else who could really give a crap about their family, their culture. So I believe with education there should be a higher level of self-love.
Yeah, and mental, and taking care of the mental health of our core population. When you feel seen and heard and listened to
and
validated where you are in your community, in your home, you don't it doesn't cross your mind to go out and seek it via things that are very temporary. And as we've seen in the shift of the world, everything can be temporary.
Yeah.
Every single thing is temporary. So the only thing that some of us are left with at this time is our character and how we're going through this, and each other, and the energy exchange that we have with each other. When you are in a certain circumstances where a closet full of clothes won't change your circumstances.
No.
Things become very real. And that's one of the things that I'm hoping we get. And there's nothing wrong with liking some of your favorite things, but at some point there has to be a line drawn.
Oh, yes. Just don't let that be your full focus, you
Yeah.
know?
Or, you know, I'm going to have a closet full of things of people who respect me and my journey.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
um, and the more we give, the more opportunities there are for people to flourish in that area. I mean, we're seeing it, and I was ahead of my time when I started this, but using the foundation of biology and chemistry, and I was interested in my hair and my natural hair. I had a natural hair care product line well before acting. I used to hand deliver to stores in Baltimore, and to
Wow.
ship out to sets before I even thought about acting my products. And so we're seeing Black women starting to create their own.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, I did not have the social platform to. It
Yes.
was just really word of mouth.
Yes.
But I think when we research, you know, well, what can I do on my own? Well, what can I contribute on my own? And feeling valuable enough to contribute that thing,
Yes.
it's a seed that gets planted that just grows. And I have hope. I have hope. We have to have hope that the message, even if during our lifetime we only reach 5 people, well, those 5 people may reach 2 or 3, and those, but if we stop, if we just give up, then we've surrendered the future of our economics and community and mental health to, I don't know what we can do. There's nothing, but
Yeah.
we, you know, we have to have hope about it.
I agree. I agree. Well, Noree, you are absolutely um, so fascinating. You know, I just absolutely love your strength, your tenacity, your insight on so many different things. And there are so many different layers and levels to you. And I'm so thrilled that we had an opportunity to sit down and talk. And even the conversation we had offline leading up to this was absolutely amazing. And I look forward to having more conversations with you.
Yes.
So tell us really quick where people can find you if they want to follow you.
Right now, I am on Queen Sugar. I've been on the movie Little. A lot of things are
Oh,
streaming right
no.
now because there's
Yes.
a. I did a mermaid movie called Scales. Mermaids Are Real. If you're looking for family content, I'm currently writing
Okay.
a story about a Black geneticist. Surprise. uh, and I just can't let go of my science roots. So there are some projects that you can look forward to in the
Awesome.
scientific realm from our POV as Black people, which I think we definitely need more of, women that are curious and in science and with children of
Yes.
color. And so those are the things. I can be found by my name, Noree Victoria, everywhere. Always willing to have a conversation.
Okay. All right. Great. Awesome. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us with Tuesdays with Tammy every Tuesday at 10 a.m. on YouTube. You can find the link in my bio. And I want to ask you to be better today than you were yesterday, and be better tomorrow than you are today. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.
If you'd like to be a guest on Tuesdays with Tammy, please contact me at www.tammyvaughn.com.